on my channel with regard to how fast or how slow we should be doing solar wind battery. We know nuclear, you just said, we're 10 years away from any kind of mass production of these mini nukes. We're probably the same. If we started today, we're probably that long away from doing a middle-sized nuclear reactor, and we're maybe longer than that away from building the next. I guess we just commissioned one in Georgia or someplace, but I don't know that there's very many other ones of the full-sized nuclear reactors that are even in the works. So in order to be able to take care of AI, crypto mining, and bringing the poor up to middle class over the next 25 years, if we did a Manhattan level project around just solar, wind, and batteries, could we do it? When I say just, assuming we said no more oil, you can't drill any more oil, you can't do any more natural gas. From this day forward, we're going to do a Manhattan level project, a go to the moon project, where we're going to make as much solar, as much battery, as much wind as we possibly can.
So you can get, stuff to work by building enough solar and batteries to do things. So here's and this was discussed on the Eric Schmidt Stanford talk, which is a fantastic talk where he gave a lot of insights into geopolitics and stuff like that. He's on the National Commission for AI, gives advice now. He gives advice on what countries the U.S. should do in terms of competition. So he says basically it's competition between the U.S. and China, right? India is kind of third wheel, and then other countries, Japan, France, lower tier, right? So basically it's between China and the US for the next 20, 30 plus years, right? So China is making almost all the solar and wind and batteries, right? They produce 80% of the solar panels, right? They produce 70% of the batteries, right? So we're getting all this subsidies that we're trying to get on the battery side is just to get the US into the game, right? And Tesla would have to go completely execution crazy to make 100 gigawatts using the 4680s of LFPs and stuff like that. And then even then, maybe we only get to 30% because CATL will be doing the same thing, right? And then LG and all that kind of stuff. So in order to get to, the US making, because you want to get to half or more, if you're saying I'm competing with China and then China has all that, also on the solar thing, solar panels, the US has to make mass amounts of solar panels, right? So if I'm in an energy AI competition, right? So we're ahead on the AI chips, but China's ahead on energy, right? China has more than double US energy, electricity, right? So more than the US and Europe combined. Where they passed US and Europe, like 5 years ago combined, and now passed double the United States. So 80% say for solar and wind. So now we have to, and they're expanding at a fast rate. If we're going to compete, to say we have to have equally as much. One, we have to build it and then deploy it. So on the building side, we have to make the factories to do it. And it's not like one gigafactory. We have to make like dozens of massive solar gigafactories. We have to make dozens of megapack factories, probably hundreds of megapack factories, right? And we have to say no delays in deploying it. No like taking 6 months or a year to stick it in and having PG&E hook it up. We have to start deploying them right away, right? So that goes to if, say, Trump is elected and Elon's his advisor, right? Then he has to say, okay, we have to get rid of all these regulations that are blocking us from doing it, not only on the nuclear side, but also on the solar, megapack and battery and deploying side, so that we can deploy hundreds of thousands, a million of these things right away. And then we have to build a grid to do it. The grid construction issue is a huge problem because we were stuck at 4,000 terawatt hours for many decades. China went from 4,000 in like 2000 up to 8,000. So they built like 500, gigawatt hours of grid and everything every year for 20 years, right? Or for, some 100 gigawatt hours. So we have to do that too, because I think your father was involved in construction
Transform,
of power, transportation, stuff like that, transformers.
transformers.
So not only did those companies not exist, because you weren't building any new transformers for 50
Right.
years,
Right.
right? Also, the special train tracks and stuff to move the heavier transformers, those don't exist either, right? So China had them because they've been building them. We
Right.
have to restart that construction or choose to size things a new way or whatever. But fundamentally, we need to build out massive amounts of grid. And we have to like it all underground, like the stupid wire
Yeah.
stuff, which is
Yeah. Yeah.
causing
Yeah.
fires.
Got to go underground. Yeah.
Everything has to be made underground. So we have to make it safe for the fire situation that we have, right?
Right.
So there's a bunch of things that we have to do to scale
Well,
up.
going underground, that reminds me of some company. I don't know.
Yeah, boring company. Yes. But China is already doing large scale nuclear. Like the 1 gigawatt reactor, they're building like 10 a year
I
and
know.
completing them every year. So they're going to 20 or more, 20, 30 or more, every
Yeah.
year, right? So if we're in a competition with China, they have 80% of the solar, they got 70% of the batteries, they're making
all the nuclear
nuclear, right? So then we're supposed to compete with that, right? So say, okay, I'm going to tie a hand behind my back. I'm not going to use nuclear. I'm just only going to do it with solar and battery. And I have to get double their solar and battery because they also got nuclear, right? And the fact that they have nuclear 5 times, 10 times cheaper than what we can build it. Like the reason we're building a tiny modular reactor is because our big reactor costs $20 billion, 10 times more than their reactor, right? And because of regulations, which aren't safer, our reactors aren't safer than theirs.
Right. Yeah.
We're going to then take 8 years, 10 years, 12 years to make it. They're building in 4.
Oh, they're building with 4.
Right. Korea built them in 4, China built them in 4.
Wow.
Sometimes they take 6. Oh, we had a slow one. It took 8 years or whatever. But they're just building it faster, right? So again, it's the skill and the training of the people. They have to be able to do that. So we have to get all these people trained or Tesla bots or something and be able to make these things fast. So if we're in a competition, so this is where I see the change happening, is that because we have a demand for terawatts and terawatts of power for AI,
right,
then Elon, Zuckerberg, all the tech giants come to whichever government is in,
right,
and say, we need to build all this power.
right.
And all these problems you got, if you still have them, I will build the AI data center in Canada. Because that's what Eric Schmidt said. It's not like me making it up. Eric Schmidt said, so we got to build them in Canada where the hydropower is.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So then all your AI data centers go out there. So then the US be hollowed out in terms of not having the main data centers. It would go to Canada. It would go to, I don't know, Mexico, Brazil, someplace where you can build the power, because we're just made our rules that, hey, we don't want the power here.
Yeah.
So basically saying, I don't want the power here. I don't want the jobs. Whatever.
Okay. So I want to speak to the people who think that we could eliminate oil today. And if we stopped pumping, stopped exploring and natural gas, and we could just switch and build everything we need to build. You're an optimist. I've known you a long time. You're almost as optimistic about things as I am. If there was this concerted effort that the government just finally says, okay, we get it, we're going to do it. Could we build that stuff? Could we build the necessary factories, the necessary infrastructure, the necessary train tracks, whatever it is that's going to be necessary to keep up with the needed power that's going to be needed for, again, not just for the data centers and not just for just for crypto mining, but also as the world population is demanding, as they become middle class, as they're demanding more and more electricity over the next 10 years. Is all that possible? Or do we need, within say 10, 15, 20 years, or do we really seriously need this transition, even in the best case analysis, where we need to drill, baby drill for the next 5 or 7 years until we really truly get that crossover point?
There's issues with the scaling and making the industrial capability. Some of it's workforce. One of the reasons that Taiwan makes all of our chips, all the good chips at TSMC, is because their workforce is
Right.
geared to do it, because it's a very difficult thing to make those chips,
Yeah.
right? And so they have at their fabs, they have dorms where all the workers and their families live. And their first year PhD physics students who work on their things, they work on the factory floor initially, right?
Yeah.
And the families who say, okay, where are you going to work? Because TSMC is the main company there. Oh, you work at TSMC. That's wonderful. You're set for life. You're the hero of the family. Like to become a doctor or a lawyer, or a hedge fund manager.
Right.
You're working at TSMC. We celebrate that.
Right.
So that's something that's needed for some of these kinds of massive industrial things. If we want to get chips, like they're trying to make the CHIPS Act, building $50 billion, trying to get Intel back in the game, it's not working because of this problem with the workforce.
Yeah.
Right? So the US has to change the attitude of the workforce to celebrate the blue collar worker. And maybe it's like blue collar working with Tesla bots or whatever. So
Right.
semi-white collar or something like that. But there has to be this dedication to working on hardware again, right? And it has to have the people aligned with that.
Yeah.
So if the workforce is not there, as much as the will and the money could say, yes, now let's do it, and let's take it with rules, you must have the workforce, even if they're working with robots,
Right.
to then make it happen.
Okay, so the answer is no.
Yeah.
The answer is give it 25 years. We're all environmentalists here. For those of you out there who think that this guy's not an environmentalist or I'm not an environmentalist, my chops are bigger than your chops. I'll put my chops up against you anytime. I spent my entire adult life in the bicycle industry. So that should be enough right there. Wrote all the books that have ever been written about bicycle retailing. I'm an environmentalist, but there's reality and you have to deal with the reality. And you're not going to tell the poor people, oh, sorry, you're not going to be able to move into the middle class because we'll let you wait, until we can do it all with clean energy. Not going to happen. So I'm saying 25 years. That's my number. I think that's how long it'll take to fully transition. I'm sure other people have different numbers, 40 or 15, but my number is 25. And I'm not claiming to be the genius on this. Yes. Okay.
but yeah, I would say that that would be lucky for us to do it, because we'll be working on building out the new stuff we need, the double and the triple. Right. So the fact that we need to replace 50 to 70% that's dirty now, which become the future 20%, at a percentage, it will shrink. Right. But it's like, if it's working, I have to, what's the money incentive for me to go back in and replace it? Right. So yes, I'm building all the new stuff because I'm short and new. I'm just short and new. I need to make more. And then to come back around to clean up the old stuff. Yeah. And especially because there'll be economic interests who say, I want to keep making money with the old stuff. It's still working. I'm still making money. So then somebody with like $10 billion, a Koch brother or something like that, you're going to say, okay, I'm going to stop you, or I'm going to stop this big, there's other, again, people issues with coming back around to replace it. You can do it, but it's like, is that the priority? If, we're still making stuff work, stuff is getting cleaner, other means, then is that the priority? And it's unclear how that plays out.
All right. Outstanding. Exciting. I'm glad we finally had this conversation.
Yes. Yeah. So a bunch of cool companies. We hopefully should see some of these nuclear trucks soon. I think they'll have some prototypes working lab-based in a couple of years. They have the parts working outside of the container. So they have the test loop working outside. They just need to fit it into the container, start mass producing and stuff like that. So there's, technical issues that have to happen. But again, the technology is stuff that's worked before. So they'll be able to make it work again. And then they have to make the factories so that you can pump them out, like $2 million, $5 million, some lower number of piece. Like with $100 million, it's like, okay, it doesn't work.
Cool. Very cool.
Okay. 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 So let's talk next time. And there are any other questions?
That's it. I'm done.
Okay. Thank you. Good talking.